Hey everybody, it's Julie. Thanks for joining me today. We're using the Illustrated Faith devotional kit entitled Joy, The Joy Journey, written by Allie Brown. And I was really impressed with this section here that leads us to Psalm 3, verse 3. And then there's also this verse that's referenced Psalm 34, 4, and 5. And it's talking about Jesus being the lifter of our heads. So I'm journaling here in Psalm 3, and I'm using my illustrating Bible, so I've got a lot of space to work with. And I was inspired by Arden Elise on Instagram, so I will link her handle and her account. And she does some wonderful things. And what she said, I didn't see a process of her, but she said that she layers puts down a couple of layers of watercolor and then covers it with some acrylic paint and then some metallic splatters. So that's what I'm attempting here. I'm using some of my Illustrated Faith watercolors, and I'm putting down a couple of layers, and I'm drying as we go along, as I'm adding some water to it, some of the paint, some of the other layers. Now, one tip here is that you saw me wet the page first just with clear water. These pages in this Bible is it's thicker than some of the Bibles, and it just absorbs the watercolor. It absorbs the paint. So by putting down a layer of water first, it acts as a barrier almost, and so that watercolor can move around a little bit more instead of just kind of soaking into your page. So I'm adding several layers here. Now, this looks pretty dark, but what I'm going to do is cover it. So you will see what I'm going to do. But, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? I am actually ironing my page. I've also found that this Bible, the pages tend to crinkle a lot. So I ironed both the front and the back side. As long as you do it with a low heat iron and you put a piece of paper in between, it's perfectly fine. And it does help to flatten out your page a lot more. So it's fine. Don't worry about it. Now you could keep it very crinkly, but I'm stamping over this, so it just helps. Okay, so now I'm coming in with this color called Shimmer Rose by Target. It's one of the Target acrylic paints. You could also use just white acrylic paint, but this has a nice, very faint shimmer to it and a very light pink. So I wanted that color to it. And as it dries, it's going to lighten up, but it's going to have a beautiful shimmer to it. And this pink is going to really help to tone down those colors and make it match the colors of this kit a little bit more. Now, to add the metallic sparkle, I don't have any metallic paints, gold or just any metallic watercolor paints or anything like that. So here's what I'm using. These are Perfect Pearls, and I'm just putting a little bit of the powder down and mixing it with water. And I found that this works perfectly because this sets with water. It works great. It will stay put, and it just blends with water, and I get a beautiful shimmery metallic gold effect. So you'll be able to see in the still shots, and I'll hold it up a little bit later. But I was really pleased with how this looked. I love the way this turned out. And this is going to be my backdrop. And all I'm going to do is stamp this one big stamp of flowers on this, and that's going to be it for pretty much my design element. So I'm using now my archival ink from Ranger. Because I've used my acrylic paint, the archival ink helps because some of your other inks, your pigment inks, or my VersaFine ink, which I love to use, but that tends to be very slick, especially over acrylic paint. So this archival ink works really well. It dries more quickly. You can also use a Stays-On ink, but I love this Ranger archival ink for that purpose. So look how pretty that looks on that backdrop of that the color background. So I'm adding some of these art marks here and there, and now I am marking off my verses. And the verse says, "But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. I cry aloud to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I'm going to use this messy card from the kit, and I'm cutting it down a little bit. This card has just some script written on it in Allie's handwriting. You turn my tears to diamonds. Let's see. Your face outshines all fear. Head thrown back, bearing it all. You are the lifter of my head. So that's what it says very faintly. Now, what am I doing here? These are some alpha letters from Illustrated Faith, and I'm covering them. These are stickers, they're just solid, but I'm covering them with washi tape, and I'm going to trim them down so that it gets that beautiful washi tape from the kit as the design on the letters. Now I've gone ahead and cut those out. You can use some of your old letters that you don't like the color or the design on them, and it would be perfect for this. So you saw me just setting them down on some white paper. I just only put them down lightly as I was doing that, so it would help. So I could cut those out. So I love the way those letters turned out. I did a little bit of black splatter painting there. And now look at these letters. Aren't they gorgeous? I love how that turned out. So I'm using this little stencil just to be kind of a guide as I place my letters down. And now I'm really pressing them. I'm going to come in and add some stamping to finish off the title. These stamps are from Sweet and Sassy Stamps, and I really thought that they kind of mimicked that look that was in the devotional. And so what I'm going to spell out is "You lift my head." And these are called Typewriter Block Alpha. These are some of the newer stamps from Sweet and Sassy Stamps, and so I will have these and all of the products that I've used linked in the description box. So I'm stamping this out. You lift my head. Now, as we read in the verse that God is the one who lifts up our head. We don't have to be ashamed. You know, we will look down, we'll look downcast. We won't make eye contact with someone when we're ashamed. But God has made it so that we don't have to be ashamed. We can look him in the eye and we can see him face to face because of the sacrifice that he made on the cross, and because of how much he loves us. We can look him in the face without being shamed, without being embarrassed, without feeling unworthy, because he loves us so much. And when we look at him in the face, when we see him face to face, we are transformed into something beautiful, into his likeness. So I love that concept that he lifts our head and we can look at him and be transformed. So I've stenciled out, using the stencil from the kit, 3 verse 3, which is my reference. And because I got a little messy on outlining the letters, I just went with that. And then I went messy with the stenciling of the numbers. And then I also came back in with the stamps and just kind of gave them a little bit more of a messy look. This particular Art Marks stamp also has kind of that messy look, like a double line. So, and I'm kind of getting messy here too because the spirals were interfering with some of my stamping. So I decided I needed to turn the stamp around. So I'm adding both of the Art Mark stamps that came in the stamp set. Now, the entire kit is not available anymore. It's sold out, but you can buy some of the pieces a la carte. The devotional booklet, the stamp set, the sticker sheet, those things you can get a la carte if you don't have the entire kit. And you can also get the digital download. Okay, so I added a little more splatter with this pink, this Shimmer Rose, and I'm using that also to paint in my numbers and then these little art marks. So that's pretty much the page itself. Now I'm going to come in and add my tab, and I kind of butcher it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So one of the tabs that's in the kit says Lifter of My Head, and so I pull that out, but I'm going to add a little bit of the washi to the top. I'm cutting off the excess down at the bottom there. Now all of this washi that I used to cut off the lift, the letters, I saved because I'm actually going to use that for another project. If you follow Messy Bible at all, she has some wonderful washi tape projects, so stay tuned for one of those. So I'm now putting down this messy card, and since it's clear acetate, you can see the adhesive through it. So I just put the adhesive on those dark parts. Now here's where I butchered the tab up at the top. It had just a little bit of a pointy edge, and so I tried to cut that off, and then I ended up messing it up, and because I'm a perfectionist, I wasn't happy with that. So now I'm coming in and I just keep cutting, and then I just keep cutting and keep cutting, and then I just mess it all up. So I decide to make a new tab. So I put some of the washi down on cardstock, and I cut that out with my tab punch. So I think that's a pretty tab anyway. So I have this piece now that I've trimmed down from the tab that said lifter of my head. And then I found a little piece of wordfetti. Actually, it was a random piece on my desk. It fell off from something, and it said loved. So I'm using that. I really don't know. It came from one of the wordfetti kits from Illustrated Faith, but because it was just literally sitting on my desk because it had fallen off from somewhere, I don't know which one it's from. So I put a little bit of the crisscross washi, the black and white washi tape up there. I just find that that black and white washi tape really helps to anchor and add some contrast to these colors. So I'm using that, and then I trim this down all the more, just a little bit more, and then I put the loved wordfetti back up there, and I'm using my tiny stapler to attach that. And because that little wordfetti was lying around for I don't know how long, the adhesive was coming off, so I have to re-adhere that with some glue. You'll see that in a minute. I'm adding my journaling, and it says, Lord, you lift my head up to you. I do not need to be ashamed, and when I look at your face, I am transformed by your love. Okay, so you saw that I had to add a little bit more glue up to the top, and now I have to wipe off where it came out from underneath, and then I use my powder tool to get the stickiness off where it came out from underneath. So I'll have all of my products linked in the description box below. Please leave any comments or questions that you have in the comment section. You can see that shimmer as I hold it up. That's my page. Give this video a thumbs up and a like if it inspired you, and if you liked it, share it with someone else, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much for joining me today, and come back and join me again. God bless. Bye-bye.